see the stars, I hear the rolling thunder, thy power throughout the universe displaying. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. And when I think that God his Son not sparing sent him to die, I scarce can take it in, that on the cross, my burden gladly bearing, he bled and died to take away my sin. When Christ shall come with shout of acclamation and take me home, what joy shall fill my heart? Then I shall bow in humble adoration and there proclaim, my God, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Light of the world, you step down into darkness. Open my eyes, let me see beauty that made this heart adore you. Hope of a life spent with you. Here I am to worship. Here I am to bow down. Here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. King of all days, also highly exalted, glorious in heaven above. Humbly you came to the earth you created, all for our sake became poor. Here I am to worship, here I am to bow down, here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. I'll never know how much it costs to see my sin upon that cross. I'll never know how much it costs to see my sin upon that cross. Here I am to worship, here I am to bow down, here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. Beauty that made this heart adore you. Hope of a life spent with you. Praise the Lord, ye rusty cross, the old rugged cross, till my trophies at last I lay down. I will cling to the cross, the old rugged cross, and exchange it someday for a crown. Oh, that old rugged cross, so despised by the world, as a wondrous attraction for me. For the dear Lamb of God left his glory above to bear it to dark Calvary. So I'll cherish the cross, the old rugged cross, till my trophies at last I lay down. I will cling to the cross, the old rugged cross, and exchange it someday for a crown. To that old rugged cross I will ever be true, its shame and reproach gladly bear. Then he'll call me someday to my home far away, where his glory forever I'll share. So I'll cherish the cross, the old rugged cross, till my trophies at last I lay down. I will cling to the cross, the old rugged cross, and exchange it someday for a crown.
He bore it all that I might live.
In his presence live. My precious Savior suffered pain and agony. He bore it
Freely bore it all
that I might live.
I with him might live.
He broke the bonds of sin and set the captive free.
He bore it all that I might live.
In his presence live. He bore it
Jesus
all
bore
that
it
I
all.
might see his
See his shining face. He bore it
Freely bore it
all
all
that I might
I with him might
live.
live. I stood
condemned to die.
But Jesus
Freely took my place. He bore it all that I might
in his presence
live.
live. They placed a crown of thorns upon my Savior's head. He bore it
Freely bore it all
that I might
I with him might live.
by cruel man with spear. His side was pierced and bled.
He bore it all that I might
In his presence
live.
live. He bore it
Jesus
all
bore
that
it all.
I might see his
Shining face. He bore it
Freely bore it
all
all.
that I might.
All right, Ruth chapter 2. Go ahead and turn over there. All right, we left off here where Naomi or Ruth has went out into the field, and they don't know this, but God's plan, God's working on all this. That they're going to be in the field of one of their relatives that'll come into play here in just a little bit, as far as their being delivered and being redeemed. And we notice that Boaz is an honorable man. He's a man of valor. He's a godly man. He shows kindness to Ruth. And we left off there with down in verses 11 and 12 about how he's heard about everything that has happened and how she's been kind to her mother-in-law, and that may the Lord repay you for what you've done. May the Lord richly reward you the God of Israel, under whose wing you have come refuge. And then she continues here, verse 13. May I continue to find favor in your eyes, my Lord. She said, you have put me at ease by speaking kindly to your servant, though I do not have the standing of one of your servants. And so remember, he had looked after her, protected her, told his men to not mess with her, harass her, that she could. And then let's continue now let's do verses 14 through 17. Who's got that for us? Let's just continue. Okay, Dolores, 14 through 17. Just keep reading there.
In that mealtime, Boaz said to her, "Come here, that you may eat of the bread and dip your piece of bread into the vinegar." So she sat beside the reapers, and he served her roasted grain, and she ate and was satisfied and had some left. When she rose to glean, Boaz commanded his servants, saying, "Let her glean even among the sheaves, and do not insult her. And also you shall purposely pull out from her some grain from the handles and leave it, that she may glean, and do not rebuke her." So she gleaned in the field until evening. Then she beat out what she had gleaned, and it was about an ephah of barley.
Okay, so when you read this, what do you continue to see with Boaz and his kindness towards Ruth here? What anything jump out at you again as we kind of continue his kindness towards her?
He's trying to make it easier on her.
Okay, he's trying to make it easier on her by what?
By having him pull out and purposely leave grain for her.
Yeah. What else there? Kind of with that.
He's willing to do his share to provide for people that need help.
Yeah. He tells them, let her kind of come in behind with his harvesters, right? As Kathy was saying, to make this easier, to provide for her, as Roy was talking about. Anything else stand out to you there? Kind of what?
Not to insult her.
Do what?
Not to insult
Yeah, don't insult her. Again, we've talked about that. She's a Moabite. And we know that even the law was, the Moabites are kind of outside of the Jews. They are not in good relationship. And so it'd be easy for them to take advantage of her, to harass her, to insult her. And that's, what have we said? I mean, Boaz, his words. What's he doing with his words here? I mean, through this whole scenario, he's supporting. Being very kind. Protecting. He's using his words. Does the New Testament say something about your words are to be not to do what, but not to tear what? Tear down, but we're to use our words to what? Build up others. He's doing other things on top of, but he's using his words. He's using his actions to lift up this lady that is in and of course her mother-in-law that's in a tough spot. I mean, kind words, right? Kind actions. They go a long way. There's so much so, they're in the story of the record of Jesus and his genealogy. I mean, and again, we have the hindsight of looking back and seeing all this now afterwards. Does Boaz know that his actions are going to be leading to the eventual Messiah? No, he has no idea. He's just what? A man, we've said, of valor, a man of character. And he's speaking and acting in such a way. Again, we're often looking for the big things. We want God to, I need to be able to stand up here and preach a sermon, or I have to do some big thing, or I have to do this massive community service or other. I mean, we think about that, and what if we are just kind in our words and our actions tomorrow? What could God do? Glorify us. He could work. I mean, Boaz just goes out and he is the kind of person he needs to be. And God, through again, there is no parting of the Red Seas and miracles here in the book, is there? There's none of that. But God is working. What did we talk about last week? Prayer and an answer is our response. And that's how God works through us. God didn't build the ark. God didn't, march around the walls. Now we know God did it all, but He used people. And that's what He's doing here. And so just a beautiful character that we see here with this. And so any other thoughts on that, on kind of this kindness that He shows her and this going out and gleaning? And yes, go ahead. Oh, Lucy?
He told his gleaners to let her glean his field.
Yeah.
But he also did more. He said, leave more than usual.
Leave more than usual. Now, that's going to come into just a big factor here in just a minute when she's going to go back and show Naomi all that she's got. Yeah, overabundance. He's not just being gracious, and he's being generous. He's being, kind of extravagant in his generosity. He's not. Is Boaz going just the 1 mile?
I think he's got his eyes set on her.
Yeah. Well, but again, I think that's going to develop. Yeah.
But Ruth, too, doesn't eat all she's given at noon to eat. She holds
Okay.
part of it to take back to Naomi. She does that before she's gleaned all this stuff in the field to make sure she has something to take back to her.
Yeah. Yeah. You just see the beautiful character and the attributes of this godly man who goes beyond what he doesn't have to do. And so, she gleans. Now, I want to, I was trying to figure, okay, before we move into the story any further, let's talk about this little business of what's going to be now it's going to set up the story here, because that's what the response, where Naomi's going to bring it into play here in just a moment. So down in verse 20, when Naomi is going to find out who's shown her this kindness in the field that she's been gleaning in, she's going to know when it's Boaz that it's in their family. So let's talk a little bit about this kinsman redeemer. It is the practice of redeeming of something, redeeming either a person, redeeming animal, redeeming land. And again, we're not going to. I don't want to read all these verses, but there you can see it's throughout Scripture here. So you can redeem human, you can redeem property. It's performed by the father of the nearest male relative. And so it's something that is performed by the next oldest relative of one of the brothers in the family. And so a couple of things about this. You could do it to ensure property does not pass out of the tribe or the clan. How important was land? How important is land today, right? Right? They don't make that anymore. That's right. You can't, right. And so in that culture, the value and worth of everything was just so much tied to the land. And so now what would happen is people would often, to pay off debt, would sell portions or all of their land. In the ancient world, indentured servitude is what they would go into to pay off a debt. A good half of the people who were slaves in the ancient world were doing that to pay off debts. We just think, well, just borrow money. Just use a credit card. They didn't have that. What do you have? Well, sell a car. They don't have a car. They don't sell a tract. They don't have a tract. You got animals, you got what? You got land. What else do you have, right? And so the land was essential. Well, what do you do if you get in trouble financially? You got to sell it. And so this is where this comes into to play. You could ensure that. Leviticus 24, individuals, to redeem individuals who had gone into slavery. So not only the property we said, but also individuals. If you say, what if you don't have any land? You can say what? I can pay it off. All right, come on with me. You're going over this area. I'm sending you over here. You're going to work in my land now. You're going to work in my country. You're going to, that's exactly, people were sold. Slavery was not primarily driven in ancient times on the basis of what we would call racism or based on your ethnic. Did they have bigotry and prejudice? Yes. But it was an economic issue slavery was driven by. They just didn't have cars and boats and houses like we have and credit cards and money in 401k. They didn't have that. If you stripped all that away from us, we'd be doing the same thing. What do you've got? You've got yourself, you've got some land, you've got some cattle, and by the way, you got children. No, I'm serious. Hello? You got 8 kids, you're starving to death, you got the oldest 1 or 2, what are you going to do with them? You're going to send them. You're going to take my child. Take my child. Oh, how dare, in our Western, mind, we would never do such a thing. You're going to let all 10 of you die? Starve to death? Right? So what you do is you take your child and say what? Put the child into what? Into slavery. That was the world they lived in.
That actually went on in this country.
Yeah.
Too. People would indenture their children.
Yeah, and so this is a time. So we read people who just, this kinsman law, this is kind of silly. Really? Because this is real world that people used to live in. And so they would also to track down and execute those who had murdered a relative. Now, lest you think this is vigilante justice, you are wrong. This is the execution with the law. Because, people are known when they commit a crime to what? Run? They've been doing that since day one, right? So what do? Well, you call the local, they didn't have sheriff. We'll call the state trooper. They didn't have state trooper. We'll call the FBI. They didn't have FBI. Somebody does something bad, who's going to go get them? Family member. Who's obligated? The oldest of the family. Someone says, if Jeff, hey, what are you doing this next month? You want to go track down someone who did wrong to your older brother? Well, I guess. Yeah, Jeff's like, let's go. I like that. Jeff's like, let's go. But yeah, that's what you have to do. Again, we in our Western, well, folks, you take away the police, you take away the state troopers, you take away the federal FBI, who protects? Who defends? Who? You can have the law all day long that says don't murder, right? But people are going to what? Murder. How are you going to get justice? Well, that's where this law comes into effect. You go get it. But it's not vigilante out there like we see in the movies, kind of just execution of the law. Also to receive restitution money on behalf of a deceased relative. So let's say that brother dies, but was still owed money. He is to take charge of that and to make sure that family member receives that. Jeremiah 50 adds to ensure justice when there's a dispute involving a lawsuit. Again, the responsibilities that fell upon the oldest, the elder, was heavy. And you still see that. A lot of you are older, are the oldest siblings in your family. And your parents expected you to, now I expect you to, when we're gone, I expect you, did anybody of you get that I expect you? Yeah. I expect you to watch your little brother. I don't let your little sister, right? Well, it was 10 times more than that in the ancient times. And so the eldest would have a responsibility when there's a family dispute. Remember, incidentally, what do they try to drag Jesus in one time? Remember? Pharisees trying to get him in the middle of one of those family disputes, and it's about money, and he asked the person that was trying to settle it some questions because he identified greed in the heart. But anyway, that was a part of being the kinsman redeemer. So these 5 aspects of this. Why this law? What are we talking about here? What are some things come to mind as we've been talking about these different aspects of the kinsman redeemer? Why would God command this kind of stuff? What's going on here? Why is the,
He wants the family to be taken care of.
wants the family to be taken care of.
Social Security and stuff such as that.
No Social Security? No? Yeah. What else? Any thoughts that you think about when you read these and think about these?
I think he wants you to take care of the elderly too.
Take care of the elderly? Yeah. The widows, the orphans, those are always part of the stranger. Yeah, I think you got it. There's corporate solidarity of the clan. There is in a community. I mean, how big were these towns, villages, communities in the? Did they have 10, 20, 100,000? No. What was most of these little towns in Judea like? Yeah, they're small. So, Jeff, you and your family is hurting and suffering. I can't just say, well, too bad. Hey, brother, I'm sorry. I'd like to help. Or maybe I'm a distant relative. Maybe I'm a cousin. I can't just say, yeah, boy, that's terrible what happened to old Jeff, his family. You see, there is a corporate solidarity. What does Paul in the New Testament talk about the church? When one suffers, when one rejoices, what? When you win, I win. When you are losing and hurting, I am to feel that. And on top of that, I'm not just to feel something. John tell us? Let us not love in what? Words but in what? Deeds. I need to do what? I need to help. I need to step up. So what is God already establishing from a practical standpoint, but ultimately what will be fulfilled in the New Testament is so clear here. Anything else you think about? Think about this kinsman redeemer here, and
He's asking a man to step up and take care of the family.
yeah, absolutely. I think you're also seeing, again, I think Roy hit it on the head. The family is the key here. I think you're seeing the value and the sanctity of the family. The family is the foundation of society and life. The first thing God does, right, when He, after He creates the world and populates it, puts the animals and everything, when He creates man, what He does first is, remember the whole, Adam's going to name the animals, and I told you that whole exercise, there was not one found suitable. Adam didn't look at any of the animals and say, yeah, I'd like to go make a cave with that tiger. Yeah, that's what I'd like to do. No. He was all alone. And God said it's not what? Good for man. And so God made the home, the family, the oldest institution, the first institution that God ever made was the family. What does that tell us? It's essential. And so we see that here in this regard, the sanctity of the family. It needs protected. It needs provisions. God doesn't want to see the family dying out. God cares about our families. God cares about your family. Well, there's just three of us. I've done these funerals before, and they'll say, we don't need a meal, Robert. There's just about 8 of us. There's 7, 10. No. I don't say this, but that's nonsense. You quit talking that way. We want to provide for your family. Your family what? Means something to us. I don't care if there's 3 of you. Right? Your family matters to God. Do you see that? I mean, what could be more important for our culture to hear right now than that in a lot of ways? Because our culture don't care one bit about the family. God, in these ancient, antiquated laws, yes, I understand, they're not, tracking down somebody to execute. I get it. They're out of touch. I understand that. They were culturally limited. God didn't intend them to be all. You don't say, I get to go and rustle up some justice now for my brothers. No, they're not intended for. But you see what God was doing? Any other thoughts, comments on the kinsman redeemer? Anything you think about on this here? We're going to get to the marriage part. I hadn't got to the one that goes, all right, I'm on board with everything. Some of you wives are thinking, I'm on board with all of that. Maybe my husband going off for, country justice, but no, I'm okay with everything. Now we get to the interesting one. Because up until all this, it's like hubby goes out, buys some land, takes care of the estate, goes and gets a little justice for his brother, for his nephew, whoever the family member is. Now hubby's coming back, and guess what? It's the craziest thing here, honey. I've got a new wife. This is where the minds of modern readers and all this, when you get into...
Part of that was because there was no way for a woman to provide for her family. There was no...
Yeah. Her husband has died. They have no children. She has no protection. She has no provision. That relative's family line can die off, right? And it was critical to everything in that society. And so God put in provisions in the law that would protect that. And one of those is, of course, the levirate marriage in Deuteronomy 25. It's a legally sanctioned marriage between a widow, husband has died and left without children. The brother of the deceased or the next closest relative would marry and fulfill those duties to prevent the name from dying out, protecting, as Kathy was talking about. Family was everything to the Jewish culture. I just think instead of being so quick, people are so quick to judge the Bible in these areas and kind of scoff at these kind of passages in the Old Testament. Well, what is that about? The husband's got to go get your brother's wife, his brother's died, and you've got to marry the wife. And instead of scoffing at it, why don't we look at it and say, what a beautiful thing God did to protect. Because again, we can just say all day long, well, couldn't God just come down and start working a bunch of miracles? That is not God's motive of operation. He does not 24/7 just sit here and do miracles and just take away that and stop that and stop. He works through who? Us. If it's going to happen, God's going to have to use us. Now, I understand, wait a minute, God can do anything. Yes, He can. But He chooses, more often than not to part the seas, but to use people to march and to fight and to defend and to speak up, and to Boaz to show kindness and say, hey, once you pick in my field, hey, workers, leave the things down on the ground so they can get it. Don't harass her. That's how God works. And it's powerful. But it's not the ways we always think He'll work. Yeah, go ahead.
It's like if you fight all the battles for your children,
Yeah.
they never grow up. They never learn
It's a good illustration.
how to take care of themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can work behind the scenes a lot of times and set stuff up
Yes.
for them and help them through it. But if you do everything,
Yeah.
then they don't learn
Yeah.
how to do anything for
Did you have someone have a hand? I thought I saw.
Well,
Go, Dolores.
we have to remember that above all else, God instituted these laws.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't something that men dreamed up. It was God. And He was preparing humanity for the ultimate Redeemer.
Yeah, absolutely. The blessing of family, God is concerned about family not dying out. And by the way, when you take that into the New Testament in its theological sense, we are called to go and broaden and expand the family of what? God. It's great that we're here this morning, right? Wonderful. Wonderful. We can encourage, we can pray, we can support, we can laugh. You think we're the only ones God's concerned about here this morning in our church family? He's concerned about everyone here in Manford and beyond. He wants them to be a part of His family, His clans, His tribe, right? Go. Be fruitful. Multiply. That principle of be spread is a command. And I believe, I understand. Robert, are you saying if a couple can't have a child? I understand. I'm not talking about when they can't. But the plan is what? To multiply. To multiply so that what? Families grow, tribes grow, towns grow, cities grow, countries grow, the church grows. Do you see that? It's critical here to understand this, I think, in the larger plan of God. You say, well, why did God do it that way? Well, that's how He chose to do it, as Dolores says. That's His law. But I think it makes sense. I think it's reasonable to when you really take a step and look at it. All right, we got to get to Naomi here now. Any thoughts, comments? We'll come back to a little bit of that stuff. Levirate marriage, the kinsman redeemer. We'll come back to some of that. But lay the groundwork because it's about to come into play. Okay, pick up in verse 19 through 23. Who's got that for me? Who'd like to read 19 through 23? Okay, Kathy.
And her mother-in-law said to her, "Where have you gleaned today, and where did you work? Blessed be the one who took notice of you." So she told her mother-in-law with whom she had worked and said, "The man's name with whom I work today is Boaz." And then Naomi said to her daughter-in-law, "Blessed be he of the Lord, who has not forsaken his kindness to the living and the dead." And Naomi said to her, "This man is a relation of ours and one of our close relatives." How far?
23.
Ruth the Moabitess said, "He also said to me, 'You shall stay close to my young men until they have finished all my harvest.' And Naomi said to Ruth, her daughter-in-law, 'It is good, my daughter, that you go out with his young women, and that people do not meet you in any other field.' So she stayed close by the young women of Boaz to glean until the barley harvest and wheat harvest, and she dwelt with her mother-in-law."
What does Naomi recognize? This is now God, He's going to work on Naomi's heart. This is good stuff. This is real good stuff. What does Naomi recognize there in verse 19? She asks a couple of questions.
Boaz is the near relative.
Well, before we get to Boaz, what is she? So Ruth comes in. What is she bringing?
She's bringing grain.
How much grain?
A lot.
A lot more than one person could pick.
And some of it's already prepared that she kept from lunch.
Yeah. And so what in Naomi's mind is probably she's already thinking, okay, this ain't what? This ain't normal. No. She's saying this ain't. And what? Look what she says. Where did you glean? Where'd you work? Blessed. What does she recognize has happened? Blessed. Fortunate. Yeah. Someone has done this. There's a blessing here in this. Blessed is the man who has taken notice of you. Then Ruth told. See, now I want you to notice that order is real important. She don't know yet, does she? She just knows, oh my. She sees the evidence here of this. By the way, I want to make a. Now I gave back some time a few weeks in a row. Too bad. What time I got? I got a couple minutes, but the spies in the land. Let's go back to that. What do they bring when they come back into the land?
Clusters of grapes so big that it takes two to carry it.
We would call that what? Evidence that God said what was in the land. What would He give Israel? This land that was what? Flowing with milk and honey, and they come back with what in hand? Grapes in hand. Ruth is going to come in to this struggling, less than perfect faith of a bitter woman who's questioned God, to put it mildly. And she's going to be presented with the evidence that God has been kind, that God is at work. And we're going to see her response. We're going to see her heart being turned and touched. We're going to pick back up here, but let me ask you this. What if we could do that this week to someone who's struggling, who's doubting, who's bitter, who's angry, who's frustrated, who's given up on God, given up on the church? What if we could come and give them some fruit, some evidence that God is still good? God is good. God is love. God is... Wow, what? Who could that be who do you work with? Who do you... we could be that person. Because we're going to see, spoiler alert, end of chapter 1, she's like, the Lord has been what to me? Hello? Right. She's harsh. What are we going to see at the end of chapter 2? She's going to start to see now that the Lord has been what? God, kind to her, blessing her. Did God do it directly? No. Who did it? Hello? Boaz. God used His humble servant to do this. What could we do? Who's bitter, angry, struggling, doubting, whatever this week, that God could use us to... Because when she's going to see it, she's not going to be like the spies, that 10 who did what? When they saw the evidence, when they brought it back, they what? Even though they saw it, they didn't believe. We can't do it. Naomi is not going to be like that. And so she is herself redeemed, I believe. Oh, it's too much good stuff here. We'll have to pick up. We'll finish that up. All right. I will yield back time. I'm out of time. See if I give you guys...
Names, precious Lamb of God, Messiah, hope for sinners slain. Thank you, oh my Father, for giving us your Son and leaving your Spirit till the work on earth is done. When I stand in glory, I will see His face. There I'll serve my King.